most of the people that I've worked with in the past, it's almost 25 years now, have worked with other trainers before me, and they came to me because they weren't getting the results they wanted, or they were following these high volume workouts on their own, so-called high volume, and they started improving as soon as they cut back.
Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
This episode is brought to you by Corporate Warrior approved body transformation coaching. I've partnered with elite online coach Gary Knight to help you burn stubborn belly fat, optimize muscle gain, and ultimately get you into the best shape of your life. Gary has been featured on the show twice before, is a highly knowledgeable trainer and coach, and has helped numerous CEOs, senior executives, and busy people achieve their health goals in record time. Getting rid of belly fat and trying to gain muscle can be really hard, especially when you're trying to climb the career ladder, grow a business, and look after a family. I'm sure you start off with good intentions. I know, I've been there. But diet and exercise is confusing and you just don't have the time or incentive to figure out what works and then stick to it. After a strong start, your plan quickly falls apart and you revert to your old bad habits. You need an exercise and diet plan that is highly efficient, effective, and rewarding, and that will get you the results you want without getting in the way of your day-to-day. But more importantly, you need someone who will keep you accountable, provide support, and help guarantee the best results in the fastest time possible. You want to look great, increase your energy and confidence, and see your social life and business thrive. Having good knowledge and advice is only a small part of a successful coaching program. Understanding how to drive results through motivation, accountability, and effective communication is what separates someone like Gary from the masses. Gary is an objective, pragmatic, driven, and proven no-nonsense trainer who combines all of the elements of a successful coach to deliver optimal results for his clients. And as a listener of Corporate Warrior, thanks for that by the way, you can apply for a free 1-hour consultation with Gary. To apply, please go to corporatewarrior.co/coach and fill out the short application form. Again, for your free 1-hour consultation, head on over to corporatewarrior.co/coach and apply now. Hey guys, I am Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior, the podcast that teaches you how to optimize your health, exercise, business, and lifestyle. My former guests include paleo pioneers Mark Sisson and Rob Wolf, zero carb carnivore Dr. Sean Baker, high intensity strength training experts like Dr. Doug McGuff, successful entrepreneurs, time management experts, creatives, New York Times best-selling authors, and everything in between. In this episode, I am joined by veteran high-intensity trainer Drew Baye. Drew Baye was featured in Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body on how to get ripped without cardio, and he has the #1 high-intensity training blog called Baye.com, that's BAYE.com, which is a high-intensity training treasure trove and one of my favorite destinations for all things HIIT and exercise related. This is an experimental episode. At the end of my last episode with Drew on high-intensity training for beginners, he went on a rant, as he does, after the show with regards to the problems in resistance training science. I thought it was absolute gold and really interesting, and I knew you guys would enjoy it. So I asked him if we could publish it. It's only 10 minutes, so much shorter than my usual episode, hence publishing it in between the typical 1 to 2 hour episodes. But if you guys like these shorter episodes, I'm quite happy to do those and do more of them. And I may try and continue to publish these shorter episodes, so 10 to 20 minutes, in between the longer episodes on a weekly basis. For all of the show notes and links for this episode and all episodes, please go to the usual place, corporatewarrior.org. Don't forget to hang around at the end of this episode for your free gift from me. And now I give you Drew Baye on the problems with resistance training science.
Here's a whole bunch of things really quick with the volume and all these volume studies. First off, most of the volume studies are work equated, but not work equated, but most of these volume studies look at the mechanical work rather than the time. And when they do one set, like one set versus 3, it's typically 1/3 of the duration because they're doing them all the same. But that's not how. Here's real interesting. When Arthur started to cut back on, Arthur always used really slow, controlled reps. Most people didn't. Most people would throw the weight up and drop it. If you go into a gym, you watch people, that's how people have been training for a long time. Yeah. Arthur took his time with it. And he discovered that when he cut back to 2 sets, he did better than when he was doing 4. And so eventually he cut back to 1 set and found he was doing better than when he was doing 2. But Arthur, because he was the way he was, more conscientious about this stuff, was doing these things very, very strictly. If you perform sets the way most people do, then you're not going to overtrain doing more. In fact, you would not get as much out of doing less because it's so little time under tension. But the problem is not too little sets. The problem is that the set is too short. Yeah. It would be like somebody who does HIIT only doing like a 10 to 20 second time under load and then stopping. So like when people like Brad Schoenfeld and Krieger and some of these others talk about the superiority of higher volume, they're not comparing apples to apples.
And I actually, I don't know if you saw, but I literally published my part 2 with Brad today, and I debated that with him, well, as best I can, or I challenged him on that. So part of the conversation is time under tension versus reps. And I'd love for you to listen to it and leave your thoughts in the comments.
Well, I'll check it out. Here's another problem though with that is they have there's in most of these studies, the exercises that they use for testing strength are the same ones that are included in the workouts. So the higher volume group always has the skill advantage from more practice. In fact, I just saw a study this morning. I started writing an article at about 6:30 and went to find some studies that I read previously that I want to reference. Ended up following some links and spending until almost 10 o'clock just reading studies instead of getting writing done. There was a study that showed that just practicing the 1-rep max test produced similar improvements in the test. So having that extra practice, that extra with the volume groups over the group that are actually doing the single set, as opposed to just practicing the test, there's going to be that advantage there. Plus, you have to consider, and I know Ryan and I have talked about this, and I don't know if you brought it up with Brad, the population that is typically used in these tests. Mm-hmm. There is a difference there. Also, if you were to look at any of these groups over a longer period of time, the differences starting out are already small. Most studies on volume don't show a significant difference between doing one and multiple sets. And the slight difference there usually is can easily be explained by the populations being used and the effective skill. And it does not apply to everybody else. But over the longer term, any difference would be nil. But as I mentioned before, the difference in the time invested and the wear and tear and the risk continues to increase while the difference in long-term results does not. But yeah, as far as the volume goes, I would argue that some people doing HIIT are actually doing more volume. Just real quick, I've got a bunch of people that are doing, 60 to 90, but a lot of the guys here are doing close to like 40 to 80 seconds. So let's say they're doing 10 exercises, averaging 60 seconds each. Their whole workout is going to usually be around 10 to maybe 12 actual minutes of time under load. Whereas if you've got somebody that's doing, say 4 exercises per muscle group, they're hitting 3 different muscle groups, they're doing 12 exercises, and they're doing maybe 15 to 20 seconds per exercise, up, down. Their total volume, which is also spread over a much longer time because they're resting more, doesn't end up being as much. So it's very different. Ultimately, though, the proof is in the pudding, and That's a stupid saying. I don't even know where that comes from. Basically, empirically, there are a lot of people who have been running high-intensity training studios who are working with people who are not all gifted, who are genetically average people and getting great results with them, doing sometimes just once a week training. So it definitely works. And something else, a lot of these people, and I've heard this story over and over again from a lot of different trainers, so-and-so came to me, they had previously been working with this other trainer who had them doing all this stuff. They weren't getting the results they wanted. We had them cut back to, whatever brief and frequent routines, and they started gaining. And I've seen it over and over again. Most of the people that I've worked with in the past, it's almost 25 years now, have worked with other trainers before me, and they came to me because they weren't getting the results they wanted, or they were following these high volume workouts on their own, so-called high volume, and they started improving as soon as they cut back. Yeah. So I honestly think, if I thought that you would get more benefits from doing more, then I would recommend it. I don't really have, the only thing that I really care about is that nobody gets hurt and that they're getting the best results that they can in the long term. And if they really needed more to do that, then I would not hesitate to recommend it. In fact, if that's where the evidence points, it's where you got to go. But I think a lot of these people just cannot. They've sunk themselves and they've invested so much of their ego and their professional reputation into this that they can't or won't admit they're wrong. And a lot of times, if you look at these study designs, they are, often, I don't want to call anybody dishonest. I'm going to be really careful about that. But a lot of times they will finagle things. They will tweak things to get the data to say what they want or as close to it as they can. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because it negatively, their ego is costing all sorts of other people time and risk that it shouldn't.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Before you head off, head on over to corpwarrior.com, that's C-O-R-P warrior.com, to get your free high-intensity training Google Progress chart and ebook with 6 interview transcripts of some of my top guests, including Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Baye, and Bill Simone, on how to optimize muscle gain, fat loss, and overall health in an efficient, effective, and sustainable way. These transcripts are deliberately not verbatim. Instead, they've been transcribed in an easy read format to make it more enjoyable and easier for you to quickly pick out what you need and start getting results. To get your ebook, head on over to corpwarrior.com, enter your email address, then check your email for an email from me with a confirmation link. Once you click the link, you will be instantly redirected to a PDF version of the transcripts.